What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Last Thoughts Podcast. I am your host, Digital Relaxation. We are back again for another episode. And as always, if you guys enjoy what you hear, what you're going to hear, please be sure to rate this podcast, share it, all of that good stuff. And let's get into it. Of course, of my little quick, I don't even know what I want to say. Not an apology, but just a quick, last episode, of course, was just a re-uploading of a previous video I did. I just uploaded the audio. Felt like it tied in. It was just more focused into like one theme, but that's cool. And also gave me a little bit more time to actually talk about the usual next segment, which is the stuff I've been up to. So a few things I've been up to, not a whole lot. Starting off with, funny enough, I'm gonna start off with something that's out of the ordinary for me. If you know anything about me, growing up, I was into sports. That was my thing. I was athletic. I mean, I am athletic. The thing about me, and I know this could be a lot of people. Thing about me is that I know that I'm like very. I want to say naturally gifted, but I want to say I'm a quick learner. Like I can pick up on things quickly enough, especially when it comes to like physical activities. Like I can pick up on certain things quickly. And that was like no exceptions when it came to sports. Like basketball was it wasn't my thing, but it was the thing that I was focused on most. But that was my father's and my brother thing. Like that was something like they were like, they were in the gym constantly, practicing, or the multiple times when we all go to the park together, and there'll be my brother and my father, playing like full court basketball games with some people that they just, meet up at the park. And I'm just, in the jungle gym by myself hanging out because, I'm too small to play with them. And, being that like my brother, only 5 years older than me, but, that's basically a whole school grade. So, probably in elementary. So that means he was probably in middle school when this was happening, like a middle schooler over here playing with like grown adults in basketball. So he was real passionate about this. That was his thing. And with me, it was like, I just picked it up and I'm just nice at it. So one thing my father always said was like, if you really would have kept up with it and actually like practice, you probably would have been way better than us. But it just wasn't like you didn't have the heart and passion for it. Which of course that's what I eventually learned in my high school time. Ended up becoming more of a creative person. I enjoy creating more than basketball. So that was a whole side tangent to saying that I never enjoyed watching sports. I could never understand the whole concept of watching it when you can do it. One of those typical things that people like saying, why you play video games when you can just go outside and do the thing that you're playing. Well, depending on what game you're playing, of course. You murdering people, don't go out there murder. But like you playing a racing game, or you playing NBA 2K, like why don't you just go and drive a car, or why don't you just go do that? So my thing was like, why would y'all sitting here watching sports, y'all getting excited when someone's scoring? I'm like, you can just go and do that yourself. So I never got the thrill of watching like professional sports. I did enjoy it like that. That small moment in time when like and one mixtape was a thing, watching street ball, because it was cool, it was fascinating. Like it wasn't just typical, we're just running up and down the court. Like no, they were doing like nice little tricks and stuff, so it made it more engaging, especially for younger artists to watch. So I never enjoyed watching, but it wasn't until I'll probably say a couple years ago, maybe a couple of years ago. My timeline is always mixed up. Probably a couple of years ago, Thanksgiving. went to my father's place, and like I said, watching, the typical man thing, watching football, the game is on. And, his team is the Jets, so that always been his team, and they were playing against the Buffalo Bills at the time. And because, like I said, me being me, I didn't care about sports, but this is his house. I'm not gonna be like, hey, you change the channel. Like, so I'm just sitting there watching it while we just waiting for the food to be done. Just catching up, talking, and I'm just watching. I'm slowly catching in the corner of my eye, and I'm like, hold on. I'm actually paying attention to it for the first time, and I was liking how the Buffalo Bills was playing. Like, I don't know, it just seemed different from what I would think most teams play. I don't know, it felt like it was something different. Granted, like, I watch certain, I'm not gonna say certain teams, I don't really watch teams, but I adapted basically becoming a Buffalo Bills fan in a sense, like a very casual, because honestly I don't know nothing. And I only just watch like their games whenever I remember that it's on. So just this past Sunday, I want to say, Sunday. You'll probably know what game I'm talking about when I say the Bills played against the Chiefs, if I'm not mistaken. They did win the Super Bowl last year. They played against the Chiefs, and cause learning, and like I said, learning about getting into Bills and learning that the Chiefs and Bills have this rivalry mostly with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. like this rivalry that's going on between them. And this season, the Chiefs was actually going undefeated. Their whole season so far, and the Bills gave them their first season loss, which is a common thing. So the rivalry, from what I'm understanding, is that when it comes to like the regular season games, Bills usually trump them, but when it comes to like the playoff game, the Chiefs just usually beat them, and that's like where their rivalry is like, like they won the battle, but they can't never win the war type thing. So I'm hoping if it comes down to that again, I want my Bills to prevail, because I want to be excited for like me just getting into a sport and getting into like watching it and like seeing my team actually like go far. I'm like, like, what are the odds? But yeah, it was interesting, like, to actually like see what's going on. I'm slowly trying to pick up on what's going on in the game, like, because there's always little things I didn't understand, like, like I was asking my cousin about it too, like when they be like, oh, it's 1st and 10, and I'm like, no, what the heck that 10 means? And it's like, oh, that's how many yards till they get to the first down. I'm like, okay, well, I'm learning. I'm like, and because usually it go 1st to 10, then 1st to 5, and then if they're close enough, then 1st to goal, and that's how close they are to just getting to the goal. All right, so yeah, I'm slow. I don't know. I guess I'm slowly transitioning into becoming a modern American man watching the game. I'm not watching no other teams, because like I said, I'm not trying to keep up with every team. I'm not good with names on top of it. I'm not trying to learn everybody on what position. I'm not trying to learn the history. So I'm just stick with one team. I enjoy watching the Bills. They're having a good season. I believe they're 9-2, so they're doing good. And I'm just gonna keep it casual. I'm not gonna be throwing myself out and about like that. So that's the sports segment of the podcast. Going into some weeb, some anime. I'm trying to get back into watching anime again. Granted, for my people who are anime and manga readers, it's like, it's hard for me, it's hard to do both after you went into the world of manga reading, because it's so much better. It's just so much better. Like, I don't know, I feel more engaged when I'm sitting there reading. I can put my own voices to the characters instead of whoever the the dub or the sub voice actors are doing. Sometimes they fit the character, sometimes they don't. Um, Censorship is big, like especially for action anime where fights and some blood and some cuts happen, gets heavily censored in the animation version compared to the manga. So it's just more raw, more uncut to say. And like I said, I could put my own voices to the characters to give them better personality, so I can actually enjoy the characters more. Like there's characters like, I don't want to harp on this, but there's an anime that I recently, not recently, but no, a while ago watched, was Tokyo Revengers. And they were telling me like, oh, you probably might enjoy reading it better because, obviously what anime likes to do is pad out. That's the next thing too. Anime pads out scenes. Like, you read certain things that happen that's like, it takes up one page, and then you watch the anime and it's like a 10-minute scene. And it's like, bro, like one of my best examples is the Luffy versus Kaido fight. The very first time they fought, the anime dragged that fight out for like probably the whole episode, like a whole 30-minute scene of just Luffy just hitting him after hitting him after hitting him, transforming, hitting him after hitting him, he getting up, oh, he's hitting him, and then Kaido does this whole big power up, and then he finally hits him. And the manga is like, alright, Luffy hits him with like 3 big attacks, and immediately, as soon as you flip the page, Kaido just knocks him right out. And that shit just makes it so much more impactful, because it's like, it was that quick how Luffy just got demolished compared to like just sitting here watching this huge build up. So padding out certain characters, trying to voice act these characters to make them act a certain way, and it kind of ends up ruining their characters. So maybe they might be better if you just read it, because you can actually put your own like idea of how you think they should be sounding and should be acting when you read the panel. So I'm trying to get back into watching. So of course I'm still doing my One Piece watch. I've been on this rewatch for a minute. I started from the beginning, and I went all the way up to the war, Marineford, for those who knows about One Piece. And then I skipped everything up to Whole Cake Island, because that's where I stopped watching the One Piece anime altogether, because from that point on I was just reading. Like at Dressrosa, pretty much at Dressrosa, I read the entire Dressrosa. I was watching it here and there just to see certain fight scenes and certain scenes get animated, because that was like the anticipation. But after that, I just strictly just been reading it. So like I'm a actually watch the everything I missed since I started reading fully. So I'm still on Wano, just trying to catch up again, especially now that we're on our 6-month hiatus. For our One Piece people, our One Piece doubters, you guys got 6 months to catch up to the anime, and low-key the manga too, because and I don't want to bring this up in no bad jinxing, but one of the things I've been concerned about, of course, is when Oda takes breaks, and usually when a break is tied to his health. I don't, this year, I mean, I don't want to make this a sad year or nothing, but like a sad thing, but we've lost a lot of people this year. And I've noticed also we lost a lot of people in the anime community, whether English voice actors or Japanese voice actors, or the artists who do songs for Japanese, like for the anime songs. We lost a few people. And there's some people who know their health conditioning is kind of sketchy right now. So, I mean, of course, topping it off with one of the biggest, we lost Akira. We losing some people this year, and that's just the anime alone. We lost people in music. We lost a lot of people this year. So Oda's one person I don't, whatever God has in plan for him, then that's between them two. But that's one that's one loss that I don't want to. And it's sad. I don't want to be like, no, for my selfish reason, because I just want to watch One Piece. It's like, yes, but still, because like I said, like, you know, it's not only because it's just for One Piece, but it's the fact that he's the one who made One Piece, and One Piece is such a impactful thing to me. So it's like he means something to me as a creator. So just I don't, you know, that it'll hurt. Just like, you know, I lost MF Doom, you know, one of my favorite rappers. You know, when I was going through my first, like, Drake was blowing up at the time, and everybody getting into Drake, and Young Money was taking over, and I just said, hey, let me just go all the way over here and just start listening to something different. MF Doom was one of those dudes who I just got into heavily, and you know, looked up to his music, looked up to his story, and you know, like I said, as a creative, and to see that part, it's like a part of me just went away. So that's how it feels. So, you know, God willing, things work out for him. He can come back and do what he does best. But until then, you know, while we still have this downtime for y'all, you know, naysayers and doubters, y'all got the time in the world right now. Honestly, it only takes about, if I'm being legit, like, it probably takes about 2 months to catch up to One Piece. Like, you could watch One Piece twice over if you really wanted to. It's not that long. Don't let the episode shit fool you. It's not that long. Once you lock in, it's not that long. And not to mention all these episodes, like, oh, it's this. Don't forget that this includes filler. You don't have to watch filler. I recommend watching pre-time skip filler, because I already said one of my favorite arcs in One Piece is actually a filler arc. The filler arcs were dope, and it also gives more involvement when it comes to, like, you know, how do we end up from this island to this island, and this little filler like kind of push you in that mood. Like, they just not just, all right, we were here, and then 2 weeks later we just gonna assume that we, you know, time passed and we just end up in the next spot. Like, nah, there's like this little moment that happened in between that, so it shows like life was happening, which is cool. But yeah, picking back up on Jobless Reincarnation, because apparently when I watched it, but you know, a lot of modern animes is doing this, where they drop the season, but they drop it in parts, like just like everything they do with movies and everything, they dropping stuff in parts. So I thought I was watching the first season. It was only like 11 or 12 episodes. Even the way it ended, it was like, oh, you know, to be continued or whatever. Like, thanks for watching. So I'm like, all right, cool. And you know, they were like, nah, it's actually like 20 something episodes. But they put it in parts. So I'm gonna finish the complete full first season, and see where it goes there. One of my ritual anime viewings I love to watch, Goku versus Frieza. That video is like 3 hours long, and I sit there and just watch the whole thing, because that's like, you know, that's that fight right there. That fight was the talk of the playground, bro. I was in kindergarten when that fight happened, in America. I remember we were talking about it, like, for kindergarten kids. I don't even know how we were watching anime, but we were watching Dragon Ball Z. We were talking about it, and I remember all the, you know, we sitting there speculating, like, yo, did Goku really die at the end? What's gonna happen? Who's gonna pick up the mantle? Are they gonna bring him back? Blah blah blah. We were sitting there talking about it, like, you know, like we just little kids. I remember it was two important things that were happening during my kindergarten times that I remember vividly. That the Goku and Frieza fight happened, and in the side tangent with the Goku and Frieza, the Namek arc took a while to finish, because the anime was actually catching up to the manga. So they would go halfway into the Namek arc, and then they would go back and do it again until they can catch till the manga completely gets to a good space, and then they will finish it. So the Namek arc felt like it was an eternity, and that's why Dragon Ball Z kind of gets that ref of like, oh, you gonna sit there and watching Power Up for 10 years, because we sat there like Namek felt like it was forever for us, but that was because they had to forcefully rerun it so they won't catch up to the manga. I remember that was happening, so it felt like we was on Namek for like forever. And the next major thing was happening was the Stone Cold got ran over on WWF at the time. I remember that was a big segment. We was all speculating like, oh, who did it? Like, you can't wait till he comes back and find out. It was crazy. But yeah, the Goku and Frieza fight, like I said, that was a pivotal moment for, like I said, my childhood, for anime. One of the first, I'm not gonna say the first, but one of the first major transformations in anime, normalizing having transformations to your characters. Just watching the fight go the distance. Like they like literally, like I said, you watch that video, like you just put on that 3-hour video and like watch the beginning for a little bit and then just jump around and just seeing how much their appearance changed, the clothes getting ripped off, the sky changing, how at one point it was this grassy field to now it's a volcano field. Like like so much was happening in that fight. Like they really was going the distance, bro. Such an iconic fight. But going on to music, I don't want to be too long on this because eventually I'm gonna do a top 5 maybe of 2024, and obviously music gonna play a big part of that. So I'm just gonna talk about a few albums that either recently came out or I've listened to since, in between the last 2 recordings, because obviously I didn't talk about it much in the last episode. And I know I slightly touched on some things, but I don't think I even listened to it yet, so I can talk about it a little bit. So I wanted to listen to this album when it first came out, but something, I don't know, it was one of those things like, like your gut feeling was just telling you, just listen to something else. Like you just didn't feel like listening to something new at the time. Like, just stick to what you already know. That was the Common and Pete Rock album. The only reason why I recently listened to it is because the Grammys is coming up and it's actually nominated for, I think, Rap Album of the Year. And I'm curious, like a Common album getting nominated. I don't think, have Common ever been nominated for a Grammy before? He was. In 2006, 2008, and 2010, he was nominated for a rap album. What album was 2006? They showing me 2024 for whatever reason. They're not showing me 2006. 2006, Common 2006 would probably be Forever? Question mark? Or Finding Forever, I mean? Finding Forever was 2007, so it would have to be B then. B came out 2005, so it came out May 2005, so maybe that got classified for 2006. So, B is a solid album. B and Like Water for Chocolate. If you want to get into Common, those 2 albums are high recommendation. Obviously, get into Resurrection and Finding Forever is actually solid too. But this album with him and Pete Rock was actually good. And this one song on there, that's just like my anthem for like the month right now. It's a song called Lonesome. Hence the title of the name now. But I mean, it's a dope song about, to summarize it, it's not, no, not about being alone. It's like legitly being alone, but more so about being alone in different aspects. So, I think it's the first verse he was talking about, him accomplishing all these goals, and he gonna buy himself a house, and realizing that he doesn't have no one to share this with, and that you remember his grandmother was like, you don't want to die alone, so like, you're doing all of this stuff, but you still don't have nobody with you, type thing. And then he talking about I believe his son he was speaking of. I don't even know if he got a son. I know he has kids, but he usually referenced a daughter. I don't know if he has a son. Probably do. I don't know. But he was referencing to, like, despite everything that happens, and even if anything happens to him, you still won't be alone. He will still be with you some way, somehow. So it's just multiple versions of, like, of fulfillment, and not being alone in different aspects, and just the beat. Also, it was just a vibe. I connect to that song a lot. So that's been like my song of the month, I would say. If I was to do a segment called Song of the Month, is that song. Elijah Day and Def D. This one's more of a underground. Yeah, I won't notice an independent. Elijah Day is 1/4 of the former rap group Clear Soul Forces. I can't say they broke up, but they have, after they dropped their last album, announced that they won't be making an album together anymore. Elijah Day, and of course you already know about Novelist, are two of the members who are still active in music. The other two, not so much. They pursue their own personal life journey. So Elijah Day and Def D, Novelist and Def D actually did a project together too. Metal Face Okage, dope project. And to hear Elijah Day, because Elijah Day usually does the beats. If you listen to Clear Soul Force's music, Elijah Day usually does the production on all the albums, except for one album that he didn't do all of it. But so it's nice to actually hear him like rapping over someone else's production. And Def D's a dope producer. It's a very hidden gem if you want to listen to something that's not like normally on the radar. The album is called it's something simple, and I hate that I don't remember it off the top of my head. And it's not popping up on my thing. I think it's called Baggage Delay. Yeah. Elijah Day, Baggage Delay. Yeah. Absol, I'm pretty sure I referenced that he was coming out with an album. Like I said, I was shocked that he was coming out with another album so soon. Since that episode, it has dropped. I have listened to it a couple times, maybe several times. Dope. It's a dope album. It's definitely different. I mentioned that before. He was changing his style up with how he approaches music, but it still felt like it still felt Absol. Like, he was still rapping, rapping, but the vibe was different. It's like it's more digestible with the beats, the production. It's a more enjoyable product compared to his earlier work, where it's like you kind of just gotta be in there to get in there. So dope. I don't know or remember if I talked about Tyler Chromacopia. I don't want to. I'm gonna go with it in the sense that probably I did, but maybe I didn't. So I'm just gonna slightly go over it. Chromacopia, 8th album of Tyler. I listened to that a couple of times too. Solid album. It's just solid. It's a solid album. not much I can say about that. It's just, typical Tyler. Not typical as Tyler in a bad way, but it's typical Tyler. Like, doesn't do much in the sense of like, like after he left the Wolf Goblin era, the Odd Future era, I would say. Granted, Cherry Bomb was kind of a mixed bag for some people. I enjoyed it for what it was, but then it wasn't until like Flower Boy when he started really like branching out on his sound and experimenting with his sound, and then of course he kept on doing it more and more. I felt like this album feels like it was part 2 of Call Me If You Get Lost, which Call Me If You Get Lost was a good album, but this one just felt like it was that part 2 with just a different theme. Obviously he talks about different subject matters, so it's a solid project. Nothing bad. And the last thing, it's not new, it's just something, something I just like to think about, and I just want to talk about it. Tupac music. So, because I was saying, if you know anything about me, you probably don't. One thing about me, Tupac, I basically grew up listening to Tupac because I have an older brother who loves Tupac. So, obviously, you growing up, you are close with your siblings. So whatever he likes, you basically likes. So obviously, I adapted the love for Tupac through him. But growing up, obviously, I enjoyed like the popular songs that and love, and usually the songs that come on, like he plays the album, and some songs I'm like, I don't really care for this song because it's the song I don't know. I don't like how the production sound. As I get older, and I heard this debate once about like, Tupac music sounds like it didn't age well. It sounds like, it sounds like the 90s music, which I mean, I guess, but I don't know. Not for me. As I'm getting older, Tupac music, like his projects as a whole, I'm able to listen to his projects as a whole and enjoy them, and I'm finding new songs like almost every listen that's like, I didn't appreciate this song when I was younger, or even in my earlier like previous listens. Like, I'm loving this song now. Like, I think Tupac music does get better as you get older, especially if like you've really been into his music all this time. So I don't know, to Tupac music, like Tupac was just ahead of his time, man. Like, timeless music. That's all I can say. And well, technically not last but not least, the gaming section. Slowly returning to live streaming on Twitch. Not serious. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do, figure out my lane. Because obviously, once I finish my 100 episodes with this podcast, I'll be able to focus on doing other things. So I'm not trying to bombard myself with doing too much. Just trying to focus on one thing at a time, and just take it from there. The main last thing, but this is actually part of the topic. Life. The only thing I can say about that section is that I just been getting myself prepared for the rest of November. And that's where I'm going to go into the topic. This topic is a different one. Usually I talk about, I'm kind of going to be talking about it, but it's in a different sense. I usually talk about past experience in a way to like, I've been through this, and we all go through things like that, and we can probably figure things out. This is how I figured it out. I'm talking about life and stuff in a sense of reflection. This is an episode about self-reflection. Just taking the time to actually sit there and analyze, where you've been, where you started, where you gone, where you going, where you're at currently. And I know certain people is, don't, I don't live in the past. I just keep focusing on now and the future. They don't think about their past, but your past is what made you who you are. So it's always nice to reflect on the journey, your life journey. So going into me, of course, I talked about, like I said, it's documented here, but just to recap and reflect on my life about growing up and experiencing a broken home early as a kid, seeing my parents split, dealing with the situation of like, oh, who we gonna live with, me and my brother, how we, how that time spent with each parent, luckily and gratefully, my parents weren't too petty with each other. They just realized they just couldn't be in a relationship together, but that didn't mean they couldn't be cool together. So luckily, they was able to still work out that. They had that kind of relationship where they still had each other back type thing, and they would still, discuss what's best for us, between each other. So, figuring out, what, my kindergarten years, my brother and I spent it with our mom because, my mom kind of still had a spot, and it was my father who left. I'm gonna leave, and he gonna figure himself out because he was going through his, and not like he was leaving, I'm leaving abandoned. It was leaving because he understood that he's not in the best position in his life right now because he was struggling with some things as he was coming up and dealing with prior to my birth, which led into my birth. So he obviously, I'm gonna let you have them for now while I get on my feet, and then we'll figure it out from there. So I spent my kindergarten years, I want to say years, my kindergarten year with my mother. Obviously just learning, and just the amount of things that happened in that year, my bond with my two closest cousins grew because, both of them are from my mother's side of the family in a sense. So, it's it's one of those things. What if it was my dad who took us first and had us for that time, and would I have that relationship with my cousins? Granted, as time went on, eventually went with our dad. The way living with my dad it was my dad, his sister, and her husband, and the respective kids. They had 3 boys, and there was a lot of boys. it was my aunt was just the only female in the house. 3 boys on her side, and obviously me, my brother, on my father's side. So I was surrounded. I was surrounded by my cousins and my family on my father's side of the family a lot, especially when it was Thanksgiving. That's why I always love Thanksgiving, or any kind of family gathering was happening. All the family from my father's side of the family come together. They show out, have fun. But like I said, that one year with my mother could have been pivotal on that relationship I have with these two, who are, these are my two, my left hand, my right hand type shit. And it's what if we didn't have that one year like that? Because there were times where, obviously my mother was working, or whatever the situation, and we're not always in school. And again, my father didn't have a place at the time. So, there were times where she would leave me to be babysat. First, there was some people that people she knew, friends of hers, cool, whatever. He had kids already, so I was cool with the kids. And then there was her other close friend who, obviously the growing up tale of, this is your aunt, and then this is your cousin. And my friendship with my cousin that grew. Granted, it's not like that was that was like it was just thrown upon us. We known it in a sense, not consciously, but physically. We've been around, like I said, me and him been together since his birth, because I'm older than him. And like I have the picture of my second birthday, and you can literally see him in the background as a toddler being held by his mom. Granted, that means he was only like 4 months years old, because yeah. So I've known him pretty much through birth, but it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't until that time period where we actually got a chance to hang out with each other and get to learn each other as people. And like I said, that 1 year could have made a whole difference on how our relationship is now, probably. That's what's crazy. But yeah, as I already said, fast forward, we eventually moved to our dad. We was with him pretty much for me, going by elementary school to 7th grade. So I was about, what's that? 7 years, right? So about 7 years we was in this one spot. I met a lot of friends from school and from the neighborhood. That was a big pivotal moment for me. That was my peak of my life, so to speak, for me, and my viewpoint in my head. Couldn't think things would get any better from there. But then got hit with the sideball. There was prices, the cost of living was going up. Of course, as a kid you don't understand that, but cost of living was going up. They were, like I said, despite that, it was, we had my father, my aunt, and my uncle, 3 working adults in the household, and they couldn't afford it. They couldn't afford to keep living. We couldn't afford to keep living there with, on top of, granted, their oldest son did move out, and halfway through, the second son moved out. So at the point, it was like my brother, me, and my other cousin, towards like the tail end. So it wasn't like the house was just full the whole time. But still, granted, even with that much people, they were like, no, we still can't afford this. So took a blow there. So my father basically had to reboot again, and at the time he was in a relationship with a woman who is now currently his wife. So they staying together. He's staying with her, they planning on planning what would soon to come the following year, or 2 years, kind of. And I'm sorry, I take that back. I wasn't with my father to 7th grade. I was with him to 6th grade. 7th grade was when that moment happened, and my brother and I had to go back to live with our mother for that 7th grade, for that 1 year. Then of course we moved. My father, he's getting serious in this relationship with this woman. So, and she already has 2 kids. He has us too. So they were like, obviously their relationship works. So now it's about learning how the kids can work together. Can we coexist together and become, essentially a family? So, they took all of us, moved to Jersey, and spent majority of my life from there. But of course, that's where my mental health journey started to. And then not even mental health in a good way, in a bad way. That's where it started. Because like I said, I didn't think life could get any better from, 6th grade, where, I had my closest friends, had all my established relationships, had my hobbies kind of already gone. And one by one, I was removed from moving away to stay with my mother for that 1 year. So I was no longer on that neighborhood, but I was still in the same school. So like, all right, I can still see some of my friends at school. That's cool. I can make do with that. But then when I lost them all, then it was like, all right, you know. And then, going through a relationship, heartbreak and whatever it is. So that was my first time experiencing that, on top of losing everyone. So, I felt like I just had no one. And, that's where it all started from there. And it was like starting to feel alone. My father, granted, he works like his work schedule goes against my my life and school schedule, obviously. So while when I'm home, he's at work, and when he's coming back home from work, it's about bedtime for me. So we don't really have that much time to spend together. So, feeling isolated, feeling disconnected from people. My brother left. So, that bond that I had with my brother all my life, always being there, he's gone. So it was just me. And it was just like, damn, like I really got no one. I got nothing. My friendships in high school, I mean, they were all right for what it was. It was a moment, but it just didn't feel like it was something that could replace what was when I was younger in elementary school and early middle school. It just, I don't know, it just didn't feel right. Like it didn't feel like this would last. Like I could feel it. And it's not like I didn't try, but it just that's just what happened. So just going through that whole journey of losing everything that didn't think things could get any better at one point in life, to like, I don't even think things could get any worse, because it got to the point where it's like I didn't care about anything no more. And of course, like I said, it's when I did my whole complete 180 and discovered my passion for creative expression, which is something that I advocate on my podcast in almost every episode. The last episode, I'm sure I brought it up. Creative expression basically saved my life. Like, to vent out how I feel, things that's in my mind in different ways, rather than just going out and saying it. Like, cause it feel awkward, just like, I'm not happy, man. So like, just figuring out a cool way to figure it out, saying it, telling stories, writing music, writing stories, drawing, making art, just letting my thoughts manifest in a different way. So it led for a lot of clutter to empty out my mind, and gave me some wiggle room to free up my headspace and not be drowned in my sorrows. And then of course I go through my journey of rebooting everything, things that I enjoy. What are the things that I enjoy? Am I enjoying it for the right reason? Am I trying to there was a point in time where I was enjoying things because I wanted to fit in, being fake to myself, trying to fit in with the cool kids or whatever. So, that's not important to me no more. So what do I like? Like, who am I? So, I spent my college years trying to figure out who I am again. And, to my detriment, of course, like I said, I enjoy my college years, but I didn't use it for what it was supposed to be used for. So I isolated myself, but it was on purpose rather than, by force. Like, it was my choice to be isolated. I needed to find out who I was before I can be friends with people. It's like, you be friends with me, it's like, who are you becoming friends with? Like, I don't know what I like, and I don't want to force myself to like things because you like them and I want to have a relationship with you. So I isolate myself and figure myself out. And that's been my journey for the most part, just dealing with figuring out who I am, learning what I like, what I dislike, the new friends in my life, having closer friendships with people who live further away from me. You already know I talk about how, like, almost every episode was at the time of this recording, The 19th. It is my best friend's birthday, so happy birthday to you. She most likely will not listen to this episode, but still, I already told her several times. But yeah, having that relationship with her, she was there. No, that's a 10-year friendship, going on 11 soon. She literally experienced my entire 20s. So she's seen me when I was I wouldn't say at my lowest, but she seen me when I was, somewhat at my lowest, and see me when I was just this empty shell and trying to figure myself out and figuring who I am. And she been there to every step of the way, whether it's directly or indirectly, helping me figure myself out, which, that's why I cherish my friendship with her so much, because, a lot of people in my life, like I said, they gone, whether it's through force or they just up and vanished on me, and they didn't keep a close relationship, and despite it all, she still stuck around to be my friend. So that's why I always appreciate that friendship. Despite we have our issues, and that's the thing, we have our issues, we clash, she gets on my nerves, I get on her nerves, but it's the fact that we still stick around. That's why the friendship is where it is, to the point where just this year and side tangent, side note, I know people every time we get to the end of the year, people the year is almost over, man, the year flew by. This year was slow. This year was very slow, because like I said, I'll be forgetting. She even forgot that the Japan trip was this year. Low-key thought it was last year. It was this year. It's just that I only took one vacation this entire year, so I feel like I've just been working all my life. Yeah, so going to Japan. Well, the first time I went to Japan was last year, but yeah. So going to Japan last year, and then going again this year, to hang out with her, because to solidify that this friendship wasn't just some random thing. We are legit friends. We can actually hang out with each other in real life. This is something legit. Just that growth. Things that I didn't think I would ever do by myself, like taking a trip. Usually when I take trips places, that was a family thing. That was a family trip thing. We do things as a family. So to do it by myself was liberating. Obviously it was nerve-wracking at the beginning, because obviously I don't know what the hell I was doing. Where do I go? But once you do it, it was liberating, to do something on your own, because you worked to get yourself in that position as well. You didn't ask for no one to help. If anyone helped me, they helped me. I don't pride myself on really asking people for help. To this day, as a grown adult, my mother still be asking me hey, is there something you want for your birthday or something you want for Christmas? And I'll be sitting there looking with the puzzled face is there something I want? I don't know. If there's something I want, I would get it. But usually she just give me money, so that'll help me out if I'm planning a trip. Hey, I'll give you some money for your trip or whatever. So I don't go out my way to ask for help, but so anything I go, I work for it, I get it. So I appreciate any help, and to go out there and do that. Like I said, to come a long way from this shaky upbringing with my family. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't, but obviously it wasn't perfect. Obviously in a perfect world, and I mean, it wouldn't even be a perfect world, but in a normal world, I would love to have experienced, what that family relationship would have been, having my mother, my father, and my brother all together in the same house. That was for me, a brief moment in my life. My brother 5 years older than me, so he had a little more time to experience that. I didn't, I can't give you a timeline, but obviously in my eyes, when I was, to gain consciousness and awareness of that I have a family and knowing what my family is, I would say I probably had a year top with them before that was it. Um, so going through that, still made the best of it. Still, family still was important. Like I said, the family members from my mother's side, despite having, because my mother is not from here originally, so despite having basically her side of the family not even being on, uh, you know, this continent, they're not even in this country. uh and we still took time to travel there, or if they traveled over here, you know like I said, the family, the friends that she already knew, and the bonds that I had with my cousins. Then going to my father's side, learning about all my cousins and whoever's over there, and just learning how important family is, cherishing my family. I love my family to death. So I'm gonna get into it. I'm gonna get into it in a bit. But I love my family. Going into having my great friendship. Being in school, having great friends, a good school environment. There wasn't no peer pressure, wasn't no bullying, no nothing. No, I was able to be me. I was able to be free, despite growing up in Brooklyn, New York, where things like that, peer pressure and all that is kind of a common thing. I was favored to not be to not experience things like that in negative ways. I was experienced a very healthy upbringing in my childhood, in the sense of like my environment, my friends, the people I interact with, school. Again, I still have my relationship with my brother. That's who I looked up to. Because he was always there. To losing everyone, not losing in a bad way, but like moving away, losing that. Even being further away from my mother with that, when it came to that as well, because they both was in New York, and now she's all the way over there. Now we gotta make different times to see her. To my brother, he's in college. He wants to go away, or he wants to go back to New York for college, so he's left. I didn't mention it. I have my sisters that I discovered that I had due to, again, I said my father was having a troubled past. He wasn't a perfect man. Trying to build those relationships that eventually didn't really blossom to something great. So those relationships is kind of like either they non-existent, or they just there, like like we cool, but it's not like we don't know everything about each other. So going from losing all of that, dealing with the emotional trauma, the mental trauma, the heartbreaks in different forms, just giving up on life, to finally finding that one thing that managed to get me through and push me through and find the next thing, building new friendships with new people, growing stronger friendship with the people who are still around from my childhood, growing a strong friendship with someone new, and just finding myself to where we are now. I'm on my own, grinding, working, get to do things I want to do in life, trying to rekindle my childhood, things that either I didn't have as a kid, or things that I did enjoy, but through circumstances probably I didn't have it anymore. Doing new things that normally I would do, something my dad or my mom would have me do, but because they are they're the responsible adults. Now that I'm the responsible adult, and I get to make these decisions for myself. So I get to do these new things for myself and go places and do whatever. To now. doing this podcast, doing music, doing YouTube, doing the Twitch. Like I said, I've been looking forward to this month. A lot of birthdays past or coming up. For those who's listening now, y'all know about the Splits and Sake podcast. This Friday, the 22nd, we are hosting a game night event for my good brother Justice, his birthday. I'm not sure if it's that day. I should ask him if his birthday is that day. But to celebrate his birthday, we gonna host our first event. Doing things like that. We went to the convention earlier, early in the summer. My mother's birthday is coming soon. She's hosting a birthday party event too. So obviously, again, like I said, I get to see my family now. Get to hang out, and that's another thing. I'm sure I mentioned this before, but I also love how my mother, like I said, my parents weren't petty with each other. That's one thing I'm grateful for. They didn't just like, forget him, and they just bad mouthing each other or separating each other from excluding each other from our lives, in a sense. Like, my mother has a great relationship with my father's side of the family to this day, where it's like, despite the marriage terms and the legal documents of no longer being their wife, and so technically no longer being a sister-in-law or whatever, they still treat her as that. That's my aunt and my mother know that they still treat each other like that's they sisters. So to know that family bond is still there. So like last Thanksgiving, I hung out with my mother, and she was hanging out with them, and I'm like hanging out with my father's side of the family with my mother. It's like, rather than my father, it would be that way technically in a normal circumstance. So I love that my family is still one despite not being together. The family is still the family, and I love that. So I love when we get to hang out and have these moments, have these get-togethers, while we still can, while everyone is still present, and then of course going into the following week, Thanksgiving, spend more time with family. So just looking forward to enjoying life, enjoying this journey, enjoying this experience, reflecting on where I've been, how I came to be, who I became, and where I plan to be, where I want to go, and just go forward from there, and just enjoy this ride. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Been talking a lot. So yeah, we are here, episode 90. The countdown begins. So we're technically the final 10 episodes of this podcast. Again, for listeners, granted, I know a lot of people don't really tell me nothing or whatever, so I'll say it publicly. But again, listeners, like I said, it's the last stretch of this podcast. Anyone who wants to get on here, talk it out, talk about some things before this podcast goes to a close. I don't know if it'll come back. Like I said, I feel like especially it's fitting with this episode where, I done talked about a lot about my life. I talked about a lot of things I've been through, and now it's like, and I don't want to force it. So, let me go experience more things in life, experience something new in life, and maybe I could come back with something new, with a new perspective someday. But, of course, it's not like I'm gone forever. Splits and Sake podcast, we still trying to come back. We still here. Again, like I said, I've been streaming. I'm on YouTube. Both names, Digital Relaxation. Such as the name of this podcast. That's your host, Digital Relaxation. My music should be coming out someday, hopefully. I don't know. It might be in a vote. But I'm still around, but I don't want, to focus on certain things. I can't stress myself out too thin. So, I gotta give myself some bigger room to focus on certain things. And I'm comfortable with giving this one the backseat. Like 100 episodes is tough. A majority of this episode I talked about myself, talked with myself, and talked about myself for 100 episodes. That's a lot I had to say. So, if anyone don't know me, don't know my journey, don't know my story yet, and especially people who know me in real life and feel like they still don't know me, like I said, it's gonna be 100 episodes, God willing, we make it to 100. It's gonna be 100 episodes of me documented right here, as we said on one of those. I don't know what episode it was, but it was the episode where I had a guest. I could probably find it if I wrote it down properly. God willing, I did. That's not it. Jeez. Let me see. That's not it. Huh. Oh yeah, no, that was that was me and Reckless. Well, I can't find it right now. But one of the episode I had a guest on here, and we talked about the concept of telling your story and sharing your story with people and with the world. Not letting nobody tell my story for me. It's here. If you want to get to know me, I mean, if you want to get to know me for real, like you have access to me, honestly, you can just talk to me. But for people who want to just get to know me and don't want to be too intrusive, like, again, you have it all here. I talked about a bunch of things, and I try to talk about things that I have an experience, and I don't want to just be talking just to talk, because I don't like talking just to talk. I don't like small talk. I like to have purpose. It could have been that episode as well. No, that was her. It could have been this episode. I don't know. I didn't write it down as this episode. Whatever. I'm not gonna harp on it. Anyways, 90 episodes. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Hope you guys, I don't know, take something from this. You don't have to always be a listener. Maybe you can be inspired to tell your story. Again, like I said, if you want to come on here and tell your story, come through. But if you want to tell your story in your own comfort, in your own setting, it's possible. Do it. Creative expression, like I said, find ways you can. If you can't just talk to people about how you feel, find a way to express it. Don't keep it to yourself or keep it bottled up to yourself. Express who you are, express how you feel to the world. That's what we're here for, to share our light, share our gifts to this world while we here, while we can. And I've mentioned this in a previous episode. It doesn't have to reach the world. Like I said, as long as this episode reached that one person who can hear this and enjoy this and appreciate this, I'm fine. That's it. I did my job. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy. Share, like, rate, comment, all of that good stuff. Hope you guys have a great day, a great week, depending on whenever I record again. Have a great Thanksgiving, Black Friday coming. If you're gonna do some shopping or whatever, I hope you guys get what you want, especially if you're gonna be shopping for Christmas or whatever. Get things you need to get for people. Be safe out there. And yeah, peace.